special thank you for flying in today from New York City to be with us. And again, to connect further with Mr. Lim, please feel free to text blockchain to 27,000 and choose Connect. For our next speaker, please welcome Cody Robertson, Creative Director of Polyant Labs. A special thank you to Polyant for being a support and sponsor of Blockchain 48 in this summit. Polyant Labs is transforming blockchain ideas into realities.
All right, let's give it up from Ben Lim. So, like you said, my name is Cody Robertson. I'm the Creative Director of Polyant Labs, and I'm super excited to be here to share with you two things I'm extremely passionate about. One is blockchain, and the other is branding. But specifically, why just being a blockchain company is not cutting it anymore. But before I go into that, I want to give you guys a bit more about myself. There we go. So I've been doing creative direction, graphic design, and brand strategy for as long as I can remember in a lot of different industries, from VC and PE to CPG to startups, and more recently, blockchain. So why I'm saying this is throughout my multi-sector industry experience, I've seen how each one views the initiative of taking on brand strategy. Which brings me to my first point of 3, the problem with the current viewpoint of branding with blockchain. Now, there's three problems I have. We have the problem with branding on the blockchain. Then I'm going to talk to you guys more about what branding and identity is. Then I'm going to tell you about how you can right now, today, create a strong brand strategy in your company with 3 simple steps. So let's start off with the current landscape. So as we all can tell by us being here, being involved in blockchain companies, and just being ingrained in this world, we can see that in the last few years, there's been a lot of growth and adoption of blockchain technologies. So you may ask, so Cody, where does the problem with branding and blockchain come from? And here's what the problem is. The problem with it is it's not blockchain itself, but rather how people view blockchain and branding. And exactly, branding with blockchain gets relegated to an afterthought. It gets thrown in with the identity, with colors, your name, your color palette, your fancy website. That is not branding, that's your identity. But even worse is when companies use being a blockchain company as the cornerstone of their brand. And in my opinion, it takes away kind of the substance of the great things that your company does. So let's kind of talk about blockchain and rapid adoption. As we can tell, that blockchain is steadily becoming a rapidly adopted technology. Just recently, I was reading an article about IBM, Walmart, Kodak, all these huge Fortune 10, Fortune 500 companies adopting it into their core business practice, which is great on the macro level, and it's also great on a smaller level with a lot of these projects and startups. But with a lot of rapid growth comes another problem, and that is the saturation of the market. So the faster that these companies grow, and the faster we have adoption, means there's more companies and then more companies, and to the point where it's hard to distinguish between which is a winner, which is a loser, which company does this, which company does that, and how are you able to kind of distinguish when you have a group of all similar looking people in the same room wearing the same shirt? Well, how you would do that is find the one person wearing a red shirt and talks one way and looks a different way. And that's when we get into branding and identity. Now, I'm throwing around words like branding and identity and brand strategy, so don't worry, I'm going to explain all those to you, and I'll tell you about how they actually pertain to blockchain in general. So the first thing we're going to talk about is this clicker, is what is branding, for example. So this quote right here by Christian Vader is a renowned brand strategist based out of Berlin, and this summarizes it just perfectly. The quote says, "A logo, a name, and some colors aren't your brand." He's 100% right, because it's not a brand. That's your identity. That's how your company looks like, not what it feels like. Which brings me to my next point about what is a brand from more of a philosophical level. And I get this question a lot from portfolio companies, from clients. They come up to me like, "Hey Cody, so how can I make my company stand out from others?" I'm like, "Well, we could have like cool websites, some fancy fonts, and some really bright colors. Or we could work backwards and create a strong branding strategy and then work our way up to the brand, the colors, and your fancy website." So when we get to a conversation, I say, I sit them down, I'm like, "Here you go, let's have a little thought experiment." So imagine if your company was sitting right next to you. How would you describe it? What would your company talk like? What would it sound like? What characteristics, attributes, tone of voice, emotions would your company elicit? These are what make up your brand. Your brand are these underlying principles that guide and direct communications and interactions between you and other businesses and you and consumers. So let's take another trip back to the 90s, during the dot-com boom, where the internet and all these IT companies are starting up. Everyone wanted to be X on the dot-com. We had dot-com marketplaces, dot-com applications, and dot-com financial institutions and exchanges. However, the problem with that was everyone was trying to become a dot-com company. They weren't focusing on the great things that made their company great. Instead of saying that we're a marketplace that sells books at a cheaper rate for that, they're saying we're a dot-com company, but we also sell books. So we kind of have this problem where we're talking about the tech first, then working back to what makes a company great. So how many of you are familiar with Product Hunt? It's a blog and kind of curation platform for interesting products and startups. So the next slide is going to talk about Product Hunt. So when you talk about Product Hunt, would you say that it's a mean stack blogging platform that also curates content for startups? No, that's kind of awkward, because why would they talk about their tech stack before talking about actually what makes them a great company? So the same thing would work with a blockchain analog. Let's use the Brave browser. So as you guys may know, Brave is a secure browser based on the Civic platform using the basic attention token. However, you can dig pretty far on their website and you'll find barely anything about that. They don't say we're a blockchain browser. No, Brave says we're a better browser. We're not. The blockchain tech does make it more secure and transparent and allow you to have no ads and be safe from people selling your data. But that's not the main point. The main point is that it's a better browser, it's more secure like that. How does it happen? By using blockchain technologies. So this is what we're getting at is we want to talk about your trick, not your tech. Which brings me to my next point. So how can you create a stronger brand strategy right now? How can you adopt a similar philosophy to Brave and some other great companies and really stand out among the competition? So while the typical process for this takes some time and go on for hours and really just extol myself out, I can just give you 3 simple things under one simple concept. And here's what it is. So you want to create the foundation of your company. What that means by the foundation is you want to establish your goals, your mission, and the underlying principles that guide it. Now, goals, values, and narrative, what do those mean and how they actually relate to your company in general? Well, let's talk about goals. So goals are basically what you want to do as a company. What are your goals, basically? So let's say that you're a marketplace, you want to sell things, you want to sell them better, sell them cheaper. That's your goals. But how are you going to do that? It's a different thing. But even more important is, why are you spending all this time, all this effort creating this better marketplace? Well, let's talk about values. Values are the principles that guide interaction. It's why you wake up in the morning and you put the hard work in to create great products. You need to understand why you do what you do in order to do it better. But even more important than understanding these base motivations behind making great products, utilizing the blockchain, and just creating that next generation of innovation is being able to communicate it to businesses, communicate it to consumers, which goes to the narrative. So with the narrative, what you want to do is make this clicker work even better. Yes, this clicker could not be better. So narrative, like I was saying, values are why you wake up in the morning and do it. But like this saying is, if a tree falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? If you're doing a great thing and no one knows that you're doing it, is it actually doing something better? So today what I want you to do is think about what are we doing, why do we do it, and how can we communicate to others why we are a great platform, and use that as your message and the blockchain after. And if you want to talk to me more about it, let's have a conversation. Thank you so much. I hope I could teach you guys more about branding and the blockchain.
To connect with Cody further and the Polyant team, please text blockchain to 27,000 and look for Connect. Our next speaker is Ricky Ombina, a local